This is tutorial number 2, and this will go over units, limits, snap, and grid. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a file from the shared folder called One Workbook Helper. Go ahead and go to the shared folder, go to the Drafting 2 folder, go to the Draft Site folder, and you will find a CAD or a Draft Site file called One Workbook Helper. File open, and here mine is. I'm in the Draft Site folder of the shared folder, One Workbook Helper. Click open, and this is what it looks like. There's really nothing exciting here. There's no layer setup or anything like that, but we should be good to go because we're going to make changes anyway. So once we have that open, first thing we're going to do is we're going to check out the units, and we're going to go to Format and go to Unit System. Okay. Another thing you can do is just type in the word units. If you were with me for AutoCAD, you remember that. We want it to be on decimal. We want it to be on the nearest 16th of an inch, which is 4 zeros. Because remember, a 16th of an inch is 0.0625, so that takes up all 4 decimal places. If we were going to do a floor plan, we'd probably want it on architectural, maybe to the nearest 16th of an inch. You can always change it to engineering or fractional or whatever it is that you're working with. You just have to remember to go to Format and Unit System. For angles, we want it on degrees, obviously, and we want it to the nearest degree. We don't need half degrees or anything like that. If you did, maybe you need to change it to 0.0, or maybe you need to have a couple decimal places, and so on. So we're going to just go with full degrees, and let me clear this off of my computer. And then the most important thing is, are we working in inches? Are we working in millimeters? Is it a metric drawing? Is it a a standard drawing? So we're going to keep ours on inches. But should you ever need to change it, you need to know how to get into this unit system and change it. So we're going to go decimal, 4 decimal places, decimal degrees, full whole numbers for the angles, and then for block units format, we're going to stick with inches. And go ahead and click apply, and then OK, and that's good to go. Okay. Next thing is limits, and you can either type in the word limits or you can go to drawing boundary. It does the same thing. So I click here. And this one, no box pops up. Everything's happening down here on the command line. So it currently says our lower left corner is 0, 0. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn on the grid. And if you look on your notes or you remember this shortcut, F7 turns on the grid. So my lower left corner is right here, 0, 0. And you can see if I put my cursor down there, this kind of gives me my X and my Y number. 0, 0 is right down here by this. And it's hard for me to get it exactly on it, but I'm pretty much right near it. So that's my lower left corner. I want it to always be 0, 0, and it says that in orange right here. So I just go ahead and hit enter. And now it tells me my upper right corner is 12, 9, meaning it goes over 12 inches and up 9 inches to right there. Okay, so that would be 12, 9. And if I want to make my grid bigger, or which is essentially the size of the paper that I'm drawing on, maybe I want to make it a B size, so it would be 17 by 11. I'd type in 17, 11, enter, and you notice my grid just got bigger. Okay, so that's how you make your grid bigger. So here it is one more time. Limits, lower left corner, like I said, I always keep it at 0, 0, so I just hit enter. Maybe this time I want to make it a C size paper, and in engineering, a C size paper would be 22 inches wide, so 22, and 17 inches tall. 22, 17, and you notice my grid just got even bigger. So now my grid is 22 inches wide by 17 inches tall. And now I'm going to go back and change it to what it originally was. Limits, 0, 0, 12, 9 is what it started out as. So now it's back to what it was normally. You need to know how to change the limits. That is going to be something beneficial to you. Okay? After limits, we're going to talk about snap and grid. Grid is currently on. I'm going to turn snap on, and you'll notice that my cursor starts snapping to the grid. Okay? And I think you guys remember that. Really the only thing that you need to know is how to change the settings. So in order to change the settings, we right click on snap and we go to settings, and currently my snap is set to snap every half of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on. Okay, and now I'm going to look at my grid settings, and that is set at every half of an inch. Okay, so it's going to snap to every dot on the grid. If I want to change my snap settings to maybe 0.25, all I have to do is change the top one and hit tab, and now it should snap in between, one in between. And you can see as I zoom in, I'm on a point, I go, and it snaps to one in between because I changed my snap spacing to 0.25. So these dots are a half an inch apart, and then my cursor snaps every quarter of an inch. So remember, you can change your snap and grid settings to be whatever you want, and you can also match the grid spacing. So when I check that box, no matter what I change this to, if I type in 1 here, now it's going to change my grid spacing to 1 as well. Okay, so now if you look at your grid settings, now it's set to 1 inches there as well. If you don't want it to match, then uncheck this box. Okay, and then go back to snap. And remember, my grid is set to 1 inch. Maybe I want this to be at a 1/2 inch. So now it's going to snap to 1 in between those dots. Alright, so I'm going to go back to what it was. And I think everything was at 0.5. So now my grid spacing is at 0.5. And I'll check my snap spacing, and my snap spacing is at 0.5 as well. So know how to change your grid, your snap, know how to change your limits, and know how to change your units. And feel free to watch that video numerous times if you need to. Okay? We'll see you in the next tutorial.